Evening. Best make mention of the weather. It's a tiny bit biblical out there at the moment. At this rate, I think Santa's going to need an ark rather than a sleigh. It is, in fact, what day of the week is it? Wednesday? Wednesday the 23rd of December, so it is very nearly Christmas. We are a week on from my last film review. I came to the Odeon, which is over here, to see Wonder Woman 1984, and I was all excited because I was back in the cinema. And then 8 days later I've just been again, and it's going to be my last visit for a while because cinemas are closing again. So when I sat here last Wednesday, Northamptonshire, where I live, was in Tier 2, which means leisure facilities like cinemas can stay open. And as of the announcement this afternoon, we are going into Tier 3 on Boxing Day, which means that cinemas have to close again. I'm very proud to report that in the 8 days this cinema has been open, I've been 4 times. Wonder Woman, Friday night I went to see Elf, Sunday evening I came to see The Great Escape, and tonight I've just been to see an absolute Christmas classic, which I'm going to review, even though it is, wait for it, 74 years old, which should give you a clue. This evening I decided to sack off all of the jobs I have to do and come to the cinema to see Frank Capra's classic It's a Wonderful Life. Now, I first saw this film, I guess, 15 years, the car's actually shaking with the wind. I think it must have been about 15 years ago. I'm really lucky that the first time I ever saw it was in a cinema, at a special Christmassy screening. And I think it makes all the difference seeing it in a cinema. It wasn't a film I'd actively avoided, but it's also one that I hadn't got out of my way to see. I will hold my hands up and admit I am not a big James Stewart fan. But I did, however many years ago, give this film a chance, and it absolutely deserves its reputation as a classic. Now, if you don't know what it's about, I will fill you in briefly. It is the story of a man named George Bailey, played by James Stewart, who has lived his entire life in a very small town called Bedford Falls. And when the film begins, George is not having the best time. Something tragic, something awful has happened to his family business, and $8,000 have gone missing. And George is desperate because he's going to lose the business. It's going to impact on his family, his wife, his 4 children, and he's lost all hope, basically, and he doesn't believe that there's any way out of the situation that he's in. And he's strongly considering ending his life because in that moment of absolute darkness and despair, he believes that everybody would be better off if he was no longer around. Higher up in the heavens, they hear his plea to send help, and they do send him help. They send him a training angel named Clarence, who shows George the world, not with him gone, but what the world, or what Bedford Falls would be like if George Bailey had never been born. And what it does is show you all the ways that he's touched the lives of people around him, and it is obviously quite dark in places, because it deals with a man contemplating suicide, but ultimately it's about hope, and it's about community and friendship, about putting others first, about kindness. It's just an absolute gem. So as I said, it is 74 years old. It was first released in 1946. It probably is the only Frank Capra film I've ever seen. It is black and white, or the print that I just saw is. I have reason to believe there's a colour version floating about, but I've never seen it. But it is so charming and wonderful and classic. I'm really glad I made the effort to come and see it tonight. I have got loads to do. Of course I have. It's Christmas Eve tomorrow, and I've got to go to work tomorrow, and I've been at work today, and I was really umming and ahhing about whether or not I was going to come and see it, and I could have watched it at home while I was wrapping presents, but when I found out today that cinemas were going to close again, I just thought, sod it, I'm going to go and I'm going to watch this film in a cinema screen. And I'm so glad I did for a plethora of reasons. There was only 4 of us in there. As you'd imagine, it's a wet and windy Wednesday night. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of people don't feel comfortable going to cinema, which is a real shame. But I understand it's a personal thing. So there was me, a bloke on his own, and then there was a couple sat along the road from me, and I would guess they were in their early 20s. They were babies. And when the trailers were on, there was a trailer for Clifford, as in the big red dog, and the lad made me laugh because he went, "Oh, Clifford!" And I thought, yeah, that's an inner 4-year-old in you who used to watch Clifford as a kid who's getting excited. And it was really lovely listening to them laugh at the humour, and all of George Bailey's lovely quirks. And then by the end of the film, when I was having a good old weep into a tissue, because this film always makes me cry, I could hear both of them crying, and it just warmed my heart, because I thought, you are, like I say, you were probably born sometime around the late 90s. You are a completely different generation to me. We are all a completely different generation, you know, to the audiences of 1946, to, you know, the era of that film. And yet here we all are in 2020 having a good old cry at George Bailey and Clarence Getting His Wings and Bedford Falls and Hope and Kindness, and it just felt so perfect and so fitting to be watching this film with everything that's going on in the world. So yeah, before I sign out, I mean, if you've never seen It's a Wonderful Life, absolutely get on that. It is, don't be put off by the fact that it's black and white. If you're the sort of person who goes, I don't like black and white films, I get it, but just give it a chance. It's really very charming. If you're like me and you don't particularly like James Stewart, again, give it a chance. It's just wonderful. I absolutely love it. It's a great film, and it holds up beautifully. And yeah, just the other thing to say is focus on those things over the next couple of days. We're all going to have weird Christmases, and people are going to be by themselves, and all the announcements. The tier 4 means you can't mix with anybody. I might well be blown away in this car, so I might not get a Christmas at all. I really don't know. But yeah, just do your best to enjoy it if you can. If you are by yourself, there's a really good article on the BBC website about maybe just completely ignoring the fact that it's Christmas Day, which was really interesting. It had loads of helpful suggestions. If you are by yourself, stick It's a Wonderful Life on. Have a good cry. But yeah, just stay safe, and remember, as Tom Hanks says, this too shall pass. And it'll all be alright in the end. And if it's not alright, then it's not the end. Merry Christmas, guys. Katie out.